Welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. And so, looking at this map, this is an extremely detailed map of the 2024 presidential election. So they started putting together some precinct level results for the election. And you can see the change from 2020 to 2024. You see humongous shifts towards Donald Trump in some of these places. Now, of course, when you look at just the results at face value, you see a lot of red. A lot of the city areas, in Texas are in so far. In California, they're kind of in. A lot of Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. Most of it's in, some parts of Pennsylvania, a lot of Michigan, Wisconsin, and a lot of New York and New Hampshire, Maine as well. We're going to kind of be analyzing just the depth of Donald Trump's modern day landslide that he received in the Electoral College, because this, unlike, popular belief, really was a landslide at a really deep level. But if you look at the precinct level, you actually see something really interesting. And we could start off with Dallas, because looking at these counties, like these four counties, Denton, Collin, Dallas, and Tarrant County, all these were counties that, conservative election Twitter and liberal election Twitter and all these people that had no idea what they were talking about were like, oh, well, they're actually going to get bluer because the cities are moving left. And that's not true. In fact, the major city areas actually ended up moving right. If we look at Fort Worth, you can see all of the red movement. You see these double-digit, swings towards Donald Trump in some of these places. Same thing in Dallas right here. Look at just the shift, the massive red all over the screen here. But funny enough, a lot of the big shifts you actually see are in some of the more like affluent red areas actually do kind of shift a little bit left or, blue, depending on, the area. But, the large shifts for Trump really came out of the cities. Looking at Hidalgo, for example, look at this precinct shift map. Look at this shift. This is absolutely insane. Now, you do see this one little precinct here got a little bit closer because it has like no votes. But other than that, you literally see this humongous shift here. Again, literally a tied precinct here. Literally, yes, it's a 60-point shift, in favor of Harris, but there's like 2 votes in the precinct. But if you actually look at places where there's a sizable amount of votes, you literally see a shift in every single precinct by like double digits. Even precincts where Biden won fairly convincingly, Trump ends up picking them off or coming close in them. Like, this was a horrible performance for for Kamala Harris in the state of Texas. New Mexico, looking at this, you could see a lot of the shifts in the state. A lot of them come from, around the city area. And looking at even the state of Arizona, looking at Phoenix, look at Maricopa. Phoenix, look at this shift in the city area here. This was an absolute just massive shifts. I believe this is the airport right here. So Harris gained about a point in the precinct map in the, airport kind of area. But when you look at where AmFest was held, which is around here pretty much in this area, America Fest held by TPUSA, Turning Point Action, look at all of this red precinct shift here. It's absolutely insane. In the places where you did see some blue shifts, I mean, a lot of places they're very, very minimal shifts. Yes, Phoenix area is still blue, but there were massive Republican shifts in these areas, which really lost Harris some ground in the state. And even when you look at some of these counties up here that vote blue, there's a lot of red shift in some of the precincts in Arizona as well. And Arizona ended up being Harris's worst swing state overall. Nevada, again, looking at these big precincts here, I mean, yes, Harris did just slightly better in some areas. This precinct literally has a few votes. Looking here, same thing. This precinct has like no votes. That's why they're so swingy. There's so few votes in some of these precincts that it almost kind of doesn't even matter how many swings you have in like certain areas. If anything, if you actually look here, a lot of places, for example, like this precinct, you see these really weird shifts in precincts where it doesn't really matter per se. But looking at Reno, for example, you do see some shift in the city areas. And looking at Las Vegas, again, Las Vegas, a humongous shift towards Donald Trump. You even see in like, Chinatown, you see a lot of places here, Las Vegas Strip, just humongous shifts into Donald Trump's column as well. A lot of Hispanic voters really driving that as well. And looking at Los Angeles County, look at the shift in Los Angeles. Yes, it's still a very, very blue metro area, but the red shift is absolutely undeniable. You get these like 20 to 10 to 30 point shifts in LA. Very, very little shifts where you have a lot of blue movement. And if you do, they're in precincts with like no people. You see, you have like 2 precincts in LA where there's like literally 1 vote for Donald Trump. I mean, there's not really a lot you can really say there. But yeah, this is an absolutely catastrophic result for Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. Looking at all of the shifts just across the board everywhere, it is absolutely a massive win at that level. Miami-Dade. Look at Miami-Dade. How much that shift. Yes, you have some areas that move a little bit to the left because they're precincts with like 2 or 3 people. But the entire area literally shifted just massively into the Republican column, including a lot of places in the middle part of Florida. You do see some small shifts away from Donald Trump. But again, places with very minimal vote counts, tend to be a little bit more elastic. Places with heavy vote counts, like, in Hillsborough, you see some shifts into Donald Trump's column. Even in the Orlando area, where something big is going to be happening very soon, especially right about here, you see, for example, in the University of Central Florida, Donald Trump improved in the campus precinct by 16 percentage points. That is a humongous overperformance. And you see, yes, they're still blue, but Donald Trump gained basically everywhere around the University of Central Florida. He gained at least, 10 to, 25 points in all of the precincts surrounding the university. So that is just a massive win as well for the now president-elect. And you see Jacksonville, yes, some areas are moving, to the left, side, of course. There are some left moving areas, but overall, you still see a massive shift towards Republicans. Even Tallahassee, just a really big shift, in that direction as well. Another really, really big shift into the Republican column. Even where, I believe even where Gainesville is, you see some shifts here as well by the university too, which is like even crazier to think about. Just these humongous shifts into Donald Trump's column. They're still blue areas, but they shift massively in his favor. Now, looking at Atlanta, you see, yes, Harris does gain quite substantially in some precincts, precincts that Donald Trump even won in, but now Harris has won them. But overall, even though this is a pretty blue area, pretty deep blue area, Donald Trump still gains in some parts of Atlanta, especially over here where you see just a massive shift towards Donald Trump in this particular precinct of the state. And then out here, you see the outer suburbs of Atlanta, which still move left, some move right. It's a very mixed result in Atlanta. But when you're looking at North Carolina, yes, the Asheville area does end up moving up pretty left. But you see in the other parts of the state, like the northeastern part, Donald Trump is just running it up the score here as well. And when you look at a place like Pennsylvania, looking at Philadelphia, you see these huge shifts in the Philadelphia area. Now, some affluent areas and some suburban areas, you do see a leftward shift, but in major city, areas here, you do see a population shift. Even in a place like Michigan, you see very mixed precinct results. Some precincts end up moving to the left, some move to the right. But if you look here at Detroit, this is where you really see just the humongous shift amongst the Trump coalition. And Dearborn right here especially is a humongous shift. Looking at all of these votes, look at that. Donald Trump, look at this, a 22-point shift. Donald Trump getting 44%. There's a lot of third-party votes, hence why Trump is not getting like in the high 70s, 80s in some of these precincts. But these areas just totally rejected Kamala Harris. They completely rejected her. Some precincts even voted for Donald Trump without even 50% of the vote because the third-party vote was like eating up some of the ballots there, including in some parts here in Detroit as well. So it is just an absolute disaster for Kamala Harris, and you even see it here. Just the Republican shift in Detroit just really killed them there as well. Even parts of Milwaukee, the inner city area of Milwaukee ended up shifting Republican. Of course, the affluent areas surrounding it moved left, but overall, just a humongous shift. And looking at Minnesota's precinct shifts, it's very weird, really, really mixed results in Minnesota. You do see some gains up here in Minnesota, but overall the Minnesota precinct shift is kind of strange. You do see some red shifts in Minneapolis and in St. Paul, so that is kind of where the main shift drives there. But the biggest thing that you'll see is New York City and the shift there. Look at all of this red. I mean, 2024, obviously the results are still really blue, but when you look at that shift in all of the precincts that either Joe Biden won or Donald Trump narrowly won, Donald Trump is just destroying Kamala Harris. Absolutely killing Kamala Harris at the electoral path. I mean, looking at this is kind of insane. And when you look at New York, there are actually areas here where Donald Trump, obviously, you actually see areas where like Harris kind of improved, but Donald Trump actually still either won them or barely lost them. So this is weird, but like Crown Heights in New York, you do see a Trump enclave in literal Manhattan, which is like really crazy as well. So overall, the level of the Trump win, the main deciding factor of Trump's electoral college performance really comes from these, blue cities that shifted right by like 10 to 20 points, depending on what city you're looking at. Those are the areas that really decided the election. This was a very deep win for the president because the areas where Democrats expected the least amount of support shifted towards the former president. Now the president-elect is exactly where it happened. And that is why this landslide was so much deeper for Donald Trump than anybody can actually imagine. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.